listening to the Texas Strangers. Here are your hosts, David Carson and Ryan Gano.
Welcome back to the Texas Strangers. We're going to close out with something I'm pretty excited to talk about, Dave.
Okay, what's that?
This affects your team a little more than mine, but only because of the terrible recent past North Texas has had. We're going to talk about realignment, and specifically the Big 12.
Okay. I mean the Big 10.
Well, there is 10 people in it, but they're actually called the Big 12. The Big 10 has 14 members.
Yeah, I always forget.
And the Big 12 has 10.
You know what? Like I've said this probably 100 times, my wife's a math teacher, so that's the reason what keeps me in line with my math numbers.
So, you're the Longhorns,
okay,
and OU. You know, you're the old guard, the big dogs.
Okay,
you hold most of the power for the conference decisions.
Well, definitely because the University of Texas has the Longhorn Network, which really just pisses everybody off in Big 12.
And hasn't done as well as I think the Longhorn faithful had hoped.
The idea, the premise of it was definitely a recruiting tool, because if they would get a player like, oh yeah, you know what? If you think about coming to Texas, we'll put your game on the Longhorn Network. You know, and that's a great tool.
Your parents can see every game you play, you know, and that sort of thing. It is a pitch, but they thought they overestimated how thick orange blood ran.
Well, I think the marketing of being able, and of course the other universities, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, all of them, they're like, no, that you cannot use your television program as a recruiting tool. Well, get your own. BYU has one.
Well, and here's the thing. It's almost, since it's become less and less profitable and it's not panning out the same, there's less and less interest in it from the public's sector. While it is a decent recruiting tool, it's become less and less leverage in their arguments for conference realignment or not realigning.
It does need to become the Big 12 station. Just like how the Big 10 has their own station, the SEC network. The Big 12, they need to realign that into the Big 12 network. Because they don't have a network. I mean, anybody that watches TV around here knows Fox Sports Southwest is how they get, after a Rangers game, you can turn around and sit there and get the OU 30-minute or Cowboys clutch time or whatever they call those shows. I don't watch them anyway because usually I'm tired by then. I'm falling asleep.
So how do most Texas fans feel in general about adding two teams to the conference? The school itself isn't really for it, is that right? Or they want to and OU doesn't? I'm not sure how the drama plays out.
Okay. Texas wants two competitive schools to come into the conference. Oklahoma wants two schools to come into the conference.
The different non-operative word there being they don't care if they're competitive?
Exactly. I mean, let me go ahead and throw Oklahoma on the bus like I always do, but they want to put someone on that schedule, you know, just as like week 2 when they play Akron, or who else do they play? University of Tulsa. Yeah, they want someone that competitive.
Well, every team has a couple Powder Puff games that is a Power 5 contender. Usually they throw a game or two on the slate. They pay the team $1 million to get run over, basically. And occasionally it does backfire.
Occasionally.
Those are the dreams.
Have your Michigan playing Appalachian State. That's probably a bad choice to take on right there.
Yeah, and I think...
No, it was Michigan. Did I say Michigan State or did I say Michigan?
I think you said Michigan.
Okay, well, it's the Wolverines who took on Appalachian.
That's Michigan.
The Big Blue.
Right. Boise State was one of those teams you also didn't want to run into?
No.
A while back. They're not quite at the same power that they were before. Okay, so Texas wants to bring in two schools. Oklahoma wants to bring in two schools. But both of them kind of want to have the power vote on this. They want the veto power on who comes into their conference.
Right. Now, originally when these conferences were made, we're going to go back to the Southwest Conference, and we'll go back to the SEC. Is what we wanted is or what how it was supposed to align. Let me say that correctly. Was these teams to be close to each other? So you take regionally, okay. So you take Texas and versus Baylor. That's only a 2-hour drive. Baylor versus University of Houston. That's like a 4-hour drive. Baylor to College Station when Texas A&M. That's like an 1.5-hour drive. And this, once again, A&M to Texas is 2 hours. Now you get it going up to Lubbock, and then you're looking at 4 or 5 hours from Waco / Austin, anywhere like that general area.
Right.
So even from here to Fort Worth to Austin, that's 4 hours, and that's relatively pretty close.
But teams used to travel by bus a whole lot more.
Right.
And they still do if it's close enough, but there is no shortage of planes for these teams to take, and sometimes a private university-owned plane that's very, very nice.
Very nice. I mean,
nicer than most of us have ever traveled.
Something I wouldn't know anything about.
So it's not really regional anymore. Now it's kind of about competitiveness level, funding, market, the media market. How big is the media market that the team adds to the conference so that the money is bigger, obviously. They're saying that expansion is pretty likely.
Well, see, and I don't even understand if for regional how we got West Virginia in the Big 12. Because regionally, that just doesn't make any sense at all.
But it is still southern. It is on the East Coast, but it fits in with the southern way of life. So I get it to some degree. It is one of the further out for the Big 12, but
you know what? If I could enter the dueling banjos playing while you were saying that,
ding, 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 ding.
That's all. The whole time you were talking about, that's all I heard. So.
Yeah, but that really does play into the SEC and the Big 12 and some of that hoopla.
Right.
So who would you add, Dave? You are the commissioner of the Big 12. You get 2 teams. Who you taking?
First one, I would take University of Houston.
Houston? Is this the homer pick?
No, I believe this team is on the rise. Kevin Sumlin was their coach. Really brought them from the cellar. Now,
wasn't there a coach before Sumlin who actually brought them from the cellar?
He had winning success, but he didn't have the marketability of getting. Who was that quarterback that got drafted?
Case Keenum?
Case Keenum. You didn't have any player. University of Houston was not having any players recognized in the NFL until Kevin Sumlin came around. So I believe University of Houston is on the rise, and I think they would compete. I think they would make some Big 12 teams go, wow, we do not want to play that team.
And with your regional
argument,
it does make sense. I mean, as much sense as Houston makes to any other conference.
Right.
You are forgetting a very important era that actually brought Houston to prominence for Sumlin. You are giving Sumlin way too much credit, and you're going to actually feel bad.
Well, no. Well, really, it was Art Briles was supposed to go, and RG3 was supposed to go, and then Art Briles didn't take the job, and then RG3 got out of his commitment to Houston and followed him to Baylor.
Right.
So I didn't bring that part in because he never really took the job.
Right, but it was a successful hire. I mean, obviously it ended up being a successful hire, but it was an important piece, I think,
right,
to the attraction. Then someone took the job. Someone left for greener pastures at A&M, and there was an interim coach was Tony Levine.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we get to the Tom Herman era, which has been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. I won't want to play University of Houston.
No, and it would force schools to take them seriously. This would be the best move for Houston and for the conference because you're not going to lure somebody away from another big conference, with I would say maybe the exception of Missouri. I think Missouri, with how they've done in the SEC, might be willing to take a trip back to the Big 12.
Actually, they've made it to the championship game once or twice, right?
Once, I think. Maybe twice. Maybe back-to-back years when they had that incredible defensive line.
Yeah.
And then kind of been disheveled.
Well, I always thought the Missouri was kind of overrated anyway. I think they probably got lucky because they were in probably the weakest conference, or the weakest, the East.
Okay.
SEC East.
Right.
Florida has been on the down, and
So what's your second team? Houston deserves to be there. I'll agree with you there. I think Houston is a sensible decision for the Big 12 to make. I don't think it's one they have to make, but Houston's a huge media market.
right.
It's a successful football team. I have no idea how good their basketball team is, but I'm going to assume it's not that good.
No, the 5 Slamma Jamma days are definitely way past us. A couple years ago, they were a bubble team, getting into the March Madness. But no, they haven't been that type of team that's basketball-wise, no. Baseball-wise, I think they've been on the cusp of getting in.
And being in the Big 12 might help even that out. So.
Usually you move into a bigger conference instead of the American Conference. You'll tend to probably bring in some bigger recruits.
Okay, so what's your number 2?
See, 2, I get really. Would this school actually leave where it's at to come here? And do I want to put that name out there? But I would love to have Notre Dame. I would love to have Notre Dame.
No way. Notre Dame has proven time and time again that they are immune to realignment, and they're willing to sacrifice their historically great rivalries in order to continue to make fistful of Catholic tithing dollars.
Now, as I'm a Navy man, and you know what? I like it that they play Navy and all the traditions that they go through. Okay. I don't watch the game. I don't watch them play Army. I don't watch them play Boston College. I don't watch them play.
I was in South Bend working during this last football season, and I went to the Notre Dame Navy game.
Okay.
And South Bend is the most Homer town I've ever been to. Like, they make Dallas Cowboy fans look mildly Homer.
Right.
The whole town of South Bend, all 12 people.
I'm sure it's more than 12.
Show up to the tailgate. I mean, everybody in the whole town is there at the tailgate unless they're forced to work.
Okay.
And, I mean, you have to understand the enrollment at Notre Dame is, I don't know, like 8,000 people, 5,000, 8,000 people. Their student enrollment.
Maybe a little more.
It's small.
Okay. Well, yeah, it is a private school, so yeah, you're right. It is a Catholic school.
Okay, so their enrollment's 12,000.
Oh, man, I feel better every time. Why do I back down from you? I should
because I'm scary. Okay, so they're 12,000 students, but this has to be one of like a larger, and their enrollment's getting larger.
Right.
This is not alumni. This is not. This is like your kind of Texas fan is who goes to Notre Dame games. I mean, obviously the Notre Dame faithful who went to the school go there, but there is people who the tickets have been handed down through generation to go to Notre Dame games.
It's kind of like Green Bay Packers. Tickets just, oh, hey, now it's your turn to take over these seats right here.
Right. It's much like that, and it's a heck of an experience. It's one of those stadiums to go to. It was Notre Dame fans were quieter than I thought they would be.
Okay.
It's a much more polished atmosphere on the inside. Like there's even tradition with how they root at people and stuff.
Okay.
So it's an interesting time. But Notre Dame's not going to give up big time individual solo money for a shot at the Big 12.
Okay, so
I'm telling you.
So since I give you my pipe dream. Okay, that's my pipe dream.
But
I have a realistic pick.
Right, but you're the Big 12 commissioner, and I'm the president of Notre Dame right now, and I just told you no.
Okay,
so you gotta go cast the reel again. Who are you trying to hook?
I'm gonna go to Florida and get the University of Central Florida.
Why?
Well, first off, in the big bowl game, they beat my champions, Baylor.
Okay,
so I know they're good enough to compete.
But they've fallen off since then. They won like 3 or 4 games last year.
Well, you always have up and downs, and then their quarterback they had a great quarterback,
Broyles,
and